Hello, sir. Today I will explain the directed acyclic graph consensus protocol. I choose this one. And the slide shows to our titles what is directed acyclic graph, how does it work, which does project use DAG, pros and cons, and summarize. What's DAG? A directed acyclic graph is a directed graph with no directed cycles. It consists of vertices and edges with each edge directed from one vertex to another, such that following those directions will never form a closed loop. So actually, in the traditionally blockchain network, we use like the data structures is linked list, and the list component and nodes connected to each other, and the DAG provide these structures, but has given some more useful features, like in the linked list we use only in the blockchains one previous block hash, but the directed acyclic graph provides more than one block. We reference it, and a cycle opposite of cycle, where you will end up where you started from after some time. In an acyclic system you will never encounter the same point not twice, and actually uses the topological order it. The otherwise, to be clear, DAX itself is not a consensus algorithm, but rather a different way to utilize existing algorithms, proof of works. DAX is a consensus mechanism that has been receiving a lot of attention lately, with the promise to fix energy use and scalability issues of power of works. And as you can see, example of the DAG figure, and each node, if you start any node, and you cannot enter a closed loop or a cycle, and you can reach an endpoint. And the next slide, how does it work? That consensus algorithm utilizes a graph structure to achieve consensus. Unlike a blockchain, which consists of blocks directed acyclic graphs have vertices and edges, those crypto transactions are recorded as vertices. These transactions are then recorded on top of one another, similar to a blockchain. However, transactions are also submitted to DAG via nodes. Proof of work tasks are required of nodes to submit a transaction. So we can say that DAG is absolutely uh, decentralized solution. It's not. Uh, you should use some centralized properties for the solution. And since each node can have more than one parent root, the model allows for more transactions to be validated simultaneously. This is because users don't have to wait for transactions to complete before processing a new one. In a DAG, each vertex represents a transaction. We can say previous slide, there are no blocks, so mining is also not required. Transactions are built on top of one another instead of gathering them into blocks. Then, as previously mentioned, proof of work tasks are done whenever a node submits a transaction to validate prior transactions and avoid spam. Which does projects use DAG? Actually, IPFS systems use the DAG algorithm, directed acyclic graph, for the file storage, and DAG is very useful for the data storage. And IOTA network use the DAG with the named Tangle system. Tangle is the DAG consensus algorithm in use by IOTA. In Tangle, the rules are that you will have to validate two previous transactions you receive it in order to send a new transaction. In this manner, the network grows stronger the more people use it. Validity of transaction increases as more transactions are added. However, as of today's, IOTA's Tangle does not have sufficient transactions volume to render creating 1/3 of the transaction volume unfeasible, and to counter that, they currently rely on a centralized node called the coordinator. And the other one is the nano blockchain, and some mechanism, name it the block lattice. Block lattice introduced a new way to leverage on the blockchain tech called the block lattice. In the system, every user and address or peer has their own blockchain, only they can write to in addition to the main ledger. To perform a transaction, there must be a send block and a receive block instead of our usual Ali send 10 BTC to Bob as line item. And we can see traditional new transactions can only be validated when the previous one is completed, but the DAG model eliminates these blocks, adding transactions directly to the blockchain. Less power is required to support the network, high transaction speeds unencumbered by block creation, less energy consumption, and environmental benefits compared to mining. At a summary, the DAG is a newly tool and recently tried to adaptation to the blockchain network. The use of DAGs in crypto is still in early states. Unlike blockchains, they are still not fully decentralized because of using power of work mechanism. As such, they're primarily used for getting network starting and not yet as a system that can be used to build a stable network. Thank you for listening to me.